Chosen one, this message has reached you at the perfect time. No accidents, no coincidences. This is divine timing at work. You are guided here because there's something extraordinary within you, waiting to be awakened. There's a moment in life when everything that was once confusing suddenly starts to make sense. The pain, the silence, the spiritual attacks, the closed doors, the long, lonely nights. You weren't crazy, you weren't cursed, you weren't forgotten. You were being prepared. Because truth isn't handed to just anyone. It's revealed to those strong enough to carry it. And now, chosen one, God said, you're ready. This is the truth you've been waiting for. This is the truth that explains everything. This is the truth that frees you. Before we begin, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe, because this message is for the chosen ones. If this message stirs something in you, drop the number 77 in the comments. It's more than a number. It's a signal to the universe that you're aligned, awakened, and ready for what's yours. Only the truly chosen will stay until the end, and those who do will gain clarity, strength, and the breakthrough they've been waiting for. Truth unfolds with every listen. So revisit this message as often as needed. Each time, a deeper part of you will rise. Let's begin. Chapter 1. You were never left behind. You were set apart. In a world that glorifies speed, visibility, and instant results, your journey looked different. And that's by divine design. While everyone around you seemed to be sprinting ahead, making noise, collecting followers, and building brands, you found yourself in the shadows, slowed down, hidden, and misunderstood. And maybe, in your quiet moments, you questioned if you missed something, if you were falling behind. But the truth is, you weren't delayed. You were being developed. You were never overlooked by God. You were observed, guarded, and intentionally set apart. Others were building platforms. You were being built from the inside out. Others were chasing applause. You were learning how to stand in the silence. They were handed the microphone. You were handed the weight of purpose, because what you carry isn't common. It's sacred, and sacred things require sacred preparation. Heaven doesn't rush the making of a vessel that will carry glory. Heaven protects it, prunes it, perfects it in private. God was never interested in just making you look powerful. His plan was to make you become powerful in character, in spirit, in integrity, in truth. Not for a season of applause, but for a lifetime of impact. That's why your path couldn't look like theirs. That's why doors closed, plans fell apart, and timelines didn't make sense. You weren't meant to fit in. You were meant to break molds. You weren't meant to rise through the system. You were meant to rise through the fire. This season of isolation, it wasn't punishment, it was preparation. You weren't being delayed. You were being distilled. God was stripping away distractions, detoxing your soul, strengthening your discernment. So when He releases you, you won't just show up. You'll shift everything around you. Because when the time is right, you won't have to compete, prove, or chase. You'll walk into rooms and the atmosphere will respond. You'll speak and things will break. You'll show up and people will feel something different. Because it's not just you showing up. It's everything God poured into you during the silent years. It's the wisdom you gained while you wept in private. It's the strength you built while no one was watching. It's the authority you earned by surviving what others didn't even see. You were becoming the kind of person who doesn't just carry light, but becomes it. You see, God hides His most valuable vessels. He doesn't throw diamonds in the street. He buries them deep. and then he digs them up when the world is ready. You're not behind schedule. You're right on divine timing. He set you apart because he didn't want you contaminated by what they called success. He hid you because he knew the world would try to use you before you knew how to stand. Now, you're not just gifted, you're anchored, not just chosen, but refined. And when you rise, you won't rise on hype. You'll rise in holiness, because you were never left behind. You were hidden, molded, protected. You were being set apart to lead a generation that's lost its way. And your time is coming. Chapter 2. Your loneliness was God's language. Every chosen one knows the sting of loneliness. Not the kind that comes from being alone for a moment, but the deep, soul-shaking ache of being set apart in a world full of noise. You felt it when your phone stopped ringing, when people you once called family faded without reason, when the friends you poured into suddenly forgot your name. You felt it in the rooms where your presence was ignored, in the conversations where your heart was too deep for their surface-level minds, in relationships that never fully saw your spirit, only your potential. But hear this, that ache wasn't emptiness. It was God clearing space. The silence wasn't abandonment. It was alignment. He removed the distractions so you could finally hear Him. Because God doesn't shout over chaos. He waits for stillness. And when the noise around you died down, heaven began to speak. He wanted to commune with you in a language only silence could translate. In your loneliness, you didn't just hear His voice, you felt His heartbeat. You saw signs others missed. You felt shifts others ignored. You developed ears that could hear whispers of warning, and eyes that could see beyond the surface. That kind of sight isn't born in crowds. It's carved in caves. In your isolation, you were being recalibrated, rewired, reborn. The very things that made you feel invisible were actually making you invincible in the spirit. You weren't losing connection. You were gaining communion. God didn't want you codependent on others for validation. He wanted you to learn the sacred rhythm of being held by Him and Him alone. He was building something in you that couldn't be shaped by the world's hands. Your loneliness wasn't random. It was revelation. It was in the quiet moments when you had no one to talk to but God that you discovered who you really were, not who people told you to be, not who the world tried to shape, but who heaven always knew you already were. That version of you, the one born in silence, sharpened in stillness, matured in obscurity, is the one that carries weight, authority, anointing. God didn't isolate you to break you. He isolated you to build you without interference. So when you rise, you won't be swayed by applause or manipulated by the fear of being alone. You'll know how to walk in rooms and still stay rooted in Him. You'll understand that solitude is not a curse, it's a weapon. Because it was in the silence that you learned how to hear what others can't. It was in the absence of others that you learned how to abide in His presence. The world will never understand it, but you do now. Your loneliness was never a void. It was a voice. It was God's language, and you were finally listening. Chapter 3. The battle you faced wasn't just yours. It was bloodline deep. The anxiety, the depression, the fear, the addictions, the cycles of poverty, betrayal, silence, and shame. They didn't start with you, but they were determined to end with you. This war you've been in, it wasn't just about your peace. It was about your purpose. The sleepless nights, the emotional exhaustion, the weight you couldn't explain. That was generational pain, pressing against your calling. You weren't just fighting your demons. You were wrestling the unspoken curses passed down from ancestors who never had the strength, support, or understanding to face them. This wasn't random. You didn't just happen to be the one in your family who woke up. You were chosen, handpicked by the divine to confront what everyone else ignored. While others numbed the pain, you felt it. While others ran, you stood still. While others repeated the cycle, you recognized it and said, "This ends with me." That battle wasn't personal. It was ancestral. It wasn't about your story alone. It was about rewriting the story for those before you and those who will come after. You're not just a survivor. You're a chain breaker, a cycle disruptor, a curse destroyer, a new beginning clothed in human form. And the darkness knew it. That's why it came so hard. Not just to break you, but to stop the legacy you carry. But you didn't fold. You didn't give in. You stood in the fire, and now the flame burns within you. You carry the weight of generations, but also the power to change generations. You are the answered prayer of your ancestors, the warrior your bloodline has been waiting for. And now, the path is clear, not just for you, but for everyone connected to your name. You're not just fighting for freedom, you're fighting for life. The life that will emerge from your struggle is not just yours, it's the inheritance of everyone who walks after you. Every step you take is paving the way for the next generation. This is a fight that can never be lost because you are always destined to win. You are the light at the end of the tunnel that no one saw coming. You are the shift, the change, the breakthrough that no one dared to believe in until now. The chains that held your ancestors are now breaking under the weight of your strength, your courage, and your refusal to be bound. With every tear you shed, the curse weakens. With every victory, the chains loosen further. But this isn't just about breaking curses, it's about creating legacies. You are the one who will teach the generations after you that no obstacle is too great, no darkness too powerful. You are the one who will show them that no matter how deep the pain, healing is always possible. The courage you've shown is sowing seeds for future generations to walk in their truth, without fear, without shame, and without the weight of past failures. You are the one who will break the chains of mental and emotional bondage that plagued your family. You are the one who will show them that they are free. And when your name is spoken in the future, it will not be spoken with sorrow or regret. It will be spoken with reverence, with honor, with recognition that the generational curse was broken because of the steps you took. You're not just changing your destiny, you're changing the destiny of your entire bloodline. And you are doing it now. You are the one, the chosen one. Chapter 4. The delay was spiritual protection. You asked, "God, why is it taking so long?" You cried, you waited, you doubted, you questioned your worth, your path, your purpose. You watched others rise while you were kept in the background, unseen, unheard, and overlooked. But what you didn't know is this: you weren't being rejected, you were being redirected. You weren't being punished, you were being protected. Heaven wasn't ignoring your prayers, it was guarding your soul. Because if God gave you what you wanted when you wanted it, it would have been a blessing too heavy for hands not yet strong enough to hold it. Your delay was your development. Your stillness was your sharpening. Your waiting season was sacred. Because God saw what you couldn't see. He saw the traps ahead. He saw the wolves in disguise. He saw the weight of the blessing and the pressure it would bring. He knew the platform would come with enemies, the favor would come with jealousy, the influence would come with responsibility, and the spotlight would expose what the secret place was still healing. So he said, "Wait," not because he changed his mind about you, but because he was forming the version of you that could carry what he's about to release. The truth is, what looked like delay was disguised mercy. It was divine strategy, because timing without preparation is tragedy, and God loves you too much to let you self-destruct with premature promotion. Some doors didn't open, not because you weren't good enough, but because the room on the other side wasn't clean enough for you. Some relationships didn't work out, not because you lacked value, but because God was removing people who couldn't come where you're going. Some opportunities were withheld, not as a punishment, but because they weren't aligned with your purpose. They were distractions in disguise. What you thought was rejection was simply protection, dressed in silence. The silence wasn't absence, it was strategy. God was working behind the scenes while you were wondering if he even heard you. Every no was a shield. Every pause was a layer of protection. Every delay was building the spiritual muscle you'll need to sustain what's ahead. You had to be hidden so you could be healed. You had to be held back so you could be built up. And when you finally step into what's yours, you won't break under the weight of it. You'll thrive. So no, you weren't being forgotten. You were being fortified. And when the time is right, you won't just receive the blessing. You'll be ready to steward it. You'll be wise enough to handle it, strong enough to hold it, and mature enough not to let it own you. God is not in a rush. He's eternal. And when he builds something with you, it's built to last. So don't curse the waiting. Bless it. Because what's coming is too big for rushed preparation. You weren't just being delayed, you were being destined. And now, you're not just ready for the blessing is ready for you. Chapter 5. You had to lose the world to gain the kingdom. At some point, you noticed you couldn't do what others did. You couldn't fake what others faked. You couldn't stay where others settled. That's because the world no longer fit you. It started to feel too small for the spirit God placed inside you. The things that once thrilled you began to tire you. The circles that once accepted you started to confuse you. You didn't change because you were bitter. You changed because you were becoming. The world was trying to shape you, but heaven had already chosen you. You were never meant to blend in. You were born to transform. Your silence was becoming louder than their noise. Your peace was disrupting their chaos. Your light began to expose the shadows that others had gotten comfortable hiding in. You stopped chasing validation, not because you didn't care anymore, but because you finally knew your value. To follow God, you had to let go of what was popular. You had to stand out, even when it felt lonely. You had to walk away, even when it hurt. You had to sacrifice what was normal to step into what was sacred. And that kind of separation doesn't come without a price. You lost friends. You lost opportunities. You lost the version of yourself that was addicted to applause. But in losing the world, you gained something the world could never offer: the kingdom. You gained clarity about who you are. You gained vision for where you're going. You gained wisdom from the wounds that tried to break you. You gained the presence of God, not just around you, but within you. The world told you to chase success. The kingdom taught you to walk in surrender. The world told you to be seen. The kingdom taught you to be still. The world offered platforms. The kingdom offered power. You didn't lose your life. You found it. In the wilderness. In the silence. in the lonely moments where all you had was God. And somehow, that was enough. Actually, it was more than enough. You lost comfort, but you gained calling. You lost people, but you gained presence. You lost the world, but you gained your soul. That's the exchange only the chosen ones understand, because you were never created to be molded by the culture. You were created to carry the kingdom. Yes, you had to walk away. Yes, you had to be misunderstood. Yes, you had to weep in secret places no one saw. But what God was building in those hidden places is what the world is about to witness in you. This was never about fitting in. It was always about breaking through. You were losing the illusion to gain the truth. You were shedding your past to step into your prophecy. And you didn't just stumble into this. You were called into it, set apart for it, built for it. That's why the old circles feel awkward. That's why the old habits lost their grip. That's why the old mindset feels like a cage now, because your spirit has outgrown the system of the world. You're not chasing status anymore. You're carrying substance. You're not desperate for connection. You're grounded in covenant. You're not loud to be heard. You're still to be led. Because now your roots are deeper. Your faith is stronger. Your vision is clearer. Your life has weight. You don't need to announce your transformation. Your fruit will speak for you. You don't need to convince people you've changed. The glow on your life will do the talking. Chapter 6. Your spirit discerns what eyes can't see. You feel what others ignore. You sense what's unspoken. You walk into rooms and pick up on energy that no one else mentions. That's not paranoia. That's discernment. It's not anxiety. It's your spirit reading the atmosphere. It's not heaviness. It's spiritual sensitivity. You've been misunderstood for it, labeled as too much, too intense, or overthinking things. But in truth, you were never meant to live on the surface. You were wired for depth. While others are distracted by what's seen, your spirit is tuned to what's unseen. That uneasy feeling you get around certain people, that's not drama. That's your spirit sounding the alarm. That weight you feel when you enter certain places, that's not mood. That's spiritual warfare. And now you realize your spirit was trained to see beyond the veil. You were built to detect what others dismiss. You were called to perceive what others overlook. You didn't learn discernment, you were born with it. That's why you never felt fully at home in this world. Because your vision isn't limited to what's physical. Your eyes aren't just natural, they're prophetic. You're not just intuitive, you're anointed. God gave you this depth for a reason. Not to isolate you, but to prepare you. Not to scare you, but to equip you. You're the one who sees the real intention behind a smile. You sense when something is off, even when it looks perfect on paper. You feel the spiritual temperature shift when people walk in or out. You don't just see people, you read them. You don't just hear words, you discern motives. You don't just watch actions, you perceive atmospheres. And that's not by accident. That's your gift. That's how God protects you and how He uses you to protect others. Because not everyone can see the spiritual snare before they step into it. Not everyone can sense the counterfeit before the damage is done. But you can, because you were chosen to guide, not follow, to warn, not to wander, to perceive, not to perform. That's why crowds feel draining, why small talk feels pointless, why pretending makes your spirit ache. You weren't designed to stay shallow. You were created for truth. You crave alignment, not attention. Substance, not noise. Purpose, not popularity. And with that discernment comes responsibility. Because God won't let you walk blind in a season that demands clarity. He won't let you attach to what looks good but carries death. He won't let you stay where your spirit is suffocating just because your eyes see comfort. Discernment protects you. Discernment positions you. Discernment keeps you one step ahead of what the enemy is hiding. It's how you've avoided battles you never had to fight. It's how you've walked away from people you didn't fully understand, but your spirit knew. It's how you've survived traps that were never visible, but deeply real. And now, you no longer question your gift. You trust it. You no longer apologize for your depth. You honor it, because it's not a weakness, it's a weapon. You're not crazy. You're called. You're not unstable. You're awakened. You're not negative. You're anointed. God is revealing to you what others can't see, because your path isn't like theirs, because your role isn't to blend in, it's to break through, because your assignment isn't to follow, it's to lead. You've been entrusted with eyes that see the unseen, ears that catch the whisper of heaven, and a spirit that discerns the movement of darkness. You're not walking blind, you're walking spirit-led. And that, chosen one, is your advantage. Chapter 7. This is the rise, but it's also the reckoning. The truth? You're not just being elevated, you're being entrusted. This is not merely a moment of rise, it's a moment of responsibility. You've been chosen for this, not because you were the loudest or the quickest to arrive, but because your heart was refined, your spirit was tested, your character was molded in secret. And now, the world is about to see the result. This is the moment where your purpose collides with your assignment. God is positioning you for impact, not for popularity. He's positioning you to heal the broken, not just be seen by the masses. This isn't just about success. This is about legacy. It's not about having followers, it's about leaving a mark. You were hidden for a reason. You were broken for a reason. You were shaped for a purpose far greater than you could imagine. So many times you asked, why is this taking so long? You couldn't see it then, but it wasn't a delay. It was preparation. Every moment of silence, every period of isolation, every hardship you endured was building your foundation. And now, that foundation is ready. The weight of your destiny is not light. The call on your life isn't for the faint of heart. This is the reckoning with all the battles that tried to break you, the reckoning with the insecurities that once whispered lies, the reckoning with every voice that told you you'll never make it, the reckoning with everything the enemy tried to use to stop you. It's all been dismantled, because you were never meant to be ordinary. You were destined to be extraordinary. Your calling was always greater than your comfort zone. Your destiny was always pushing you out of the crowd and into the fire. It was in the fire where you were refined. It was in the storm where you were strengthened. And now you're stepping into the fullness of what God has prepared for you. This isn't just your time to shine. It's your time to lead. Your voice will carry truth to those who need it most. Your hands will heal the wounds that no one else can touch. Your presence will bring peace where chaos once ruled. You've been positioned to impact the world, but don't forget the responsibility that comes with it. Now that you're walking in your purpose, you're a beacon of hope for the hopeless. You're a voice of truth for those who can't hear their own. You are a vessel for healing, a conduit for the divine. You were not just saved for yourself. You were saved for the world. You were not just restored for your own benefit. You were restored to rebuild the broken. This is the rise, but it's also the reckoning. This is the season where everything you've endured has a purpose. The moments that seemed like setbacks were really setups for this very moment. The people who left, the doors that closed, the dreams that were shattered. It was all part of the plan. Now, you are not guessing anymore. You're not doubting. You're not wondering if you're ready. You know you're ready. Because God said, now you're ready. You've been built for this. You've been prepared for this moment. The time of testing is over. Now is the time to lead. This isn't the time to shrink back. This isn't the time to doubt your worth. This isn't the time to hold back your voice. You are ready. Because God said, now is the time. This is the rise. This is the reckoning. And now you step boldly into the fullness of your calling.